That's film shit. All right, cool. So this is the Don't Panic Podcast, episode 1. Thank you for joining us. I'm getting a call.
Oh
It's
my
amazing.
God.
It's amazing. And
As soon as
I'm putting this on Don't Disturb. This is amazing.
That's really funny. As soon as
5G. That's your FBI, man. They're coming for you.
Yeah. All right. And then Miguel stepped away. It's cool.
I'm right here. I'm listening.
But
yeah, the fucking welcome. Don't Panic Podcast. We're here to tell you that shit is happening, but you don't need to worry about it because there's a lot of shit happening at once. And there are people who are smarter than us with plans. So we'll do our best to explain it to you so you don't have to panic.
with our beautiful, soothing voices,
With our
we will
beautiful
explain it to
voices.
you.
Yes.
You don't have to panic. So this is Don't Panic Podcast. Current events, news, politics, other things. To people who don't have the authority to be talking on them.
Exactly.
We have a Patreon. We're not expecting it to go anywhere, but we figured if we can make $5, that'd be super cool. Patreon.com.
Cup of coffee.
Yes, but not at Starbucks anymore because they're canceled.
Yeah, no. Mom and pop shops only.
Yes. So patreon.com/Don't Panic Podcast. We got Facebook, we got YouTube. We're posting full episodes there. Full audio only episodes on Spotify. We're still working on the tiers. It's probably going to be early content, access to things if we ever get off the ground running.
Yes.
And then we'll be posting highlights and stuff on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok.
Yeah.
So today, Mika and I are joined by the wonderful Alex 1 and Alex 2, Alex Cal and Alex Zegbu. We brought them on today. Yes, we brought them on today because there's been some stuff happening in the b-boying world.
Yes.
That we wanted to talk about. There's been some drama. There's been some online altercation.
Well, let's give it a bit of bit of context. As you know, we're currently in the biggest protest movement in the entire world, dealing with the American policing system, and breaking has been going through this thing where there's been a fight between a bunch of people who want the cultural and historical context to be understood at every level in the breaking community. However, there's a bunch of other people that are super comfortable with the status quo, that are super comfortable with breaking being shifted away from its political and historical roots and just becoming this very competitive, hey guys, we're all just doing the sport. Stop making it about, race. But it is. So
it's the equivalent of shut up and dribble, but this, it's shut up and windmill,
Exactly.
and, so we wanted to talk about, how hip hop and breaking comes from hip hop, and hip hop is inherently part of Black culture, and breaking is populated by people of all races, so they are tourists in Black culture, but they don't want to speak out about Black issues. We have that, and that has led to some online altercations with some pretty well-known people in the scene. And then also just talking about anti-Blackness in Asian communities, anti-Blackness in other minority communities. Just about how it's easier to pit minorities against each other than it is to, focus on the real issue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, if personally, if I could start, I want to talk about a thing I was thinking about this week. There was, I feel like every white person has a little bit of colonizer energy in their body. It like, even myself, like when I was younger, I was constantly trying to find Russian cultural connections to breaking. I don't know why. But it wasn't in a sense of like to see where the exchange was. It was to be like, yeah, nah, that came from us. And that gives me ownership of what I'm doing here. And it was a real, or gives me more, credit to whatever. And I think that might be a thing that a lot of, my less than melanated folks, thought processes are also happening. Like there are, I remember listening to, or not listening, but reading a thread from, what's that guy's name? Jay something, Jay Boogie. He dressed up like a ghost and got roasted by fiction. That guy, they had a one-on-one, and he brought like his putties, and they did like routines and stuff. But I remember him having a very, very lengthy conversation about how all of his involvement in hip hop allowed him, to say certain things or to defend certain positions. And like, I don't know, that's kind of the energy that I'm seeing from, a lot of European descendant hip hop folks. There's this like, I don't know, perceived level of ascension from guest to somebody that can tell people what is what based on their own like personal cognitive idea. I don't know.
Yeah. You're good. And I'm guilty of this early on. I wasn't looking for like what you would consider to be like Asian roots in hip hop, or it being inherently Asian. But when I came into breaking, which was like midway through high school, so like 2009, that was like the height of Korea really starting to, I don't want to say take over, but they had a lot of really well-known dancers in the international scene. They were sort of exploding. And so I had this kind of internal feeling of, breaking is from the US, but it's Asian countries that are like, they're the reason why it's happening internationally and it's popularized internationally, which is, not true, but that was the feeling I had at the time. And being an Asian person in like a school that did not have like any Asian people, it was sort of something I could be like, hey, look at this, show my friends, this is an Asian, look at these Asian people doing this thing. I didn't say it like that, but it was almost like I was searching for something to brag about culturally. Those are things that we can look back at and, I don't know about laugh at, but think about the kind of think about the kind of impact it has,
And those those thought processes probably, had an influence on the way that we presented ourselves in the scene at those times as well.
I mean, if I could cut in real quick.
Go ahead.
First of all, my name's Cal. I'm from Jersey. I'm from the suburbs. I grew up with 2 Korean parents, and I started breaking in about 2009, right around when Jed was saying that Koreans were becoming more prevalent in the breaking scene. And let me tell you, man, these Korean b-boys be wearing do-rags and corn rolling their hair and doing all sorts of stupid shit. And you guys bring up a good point. It's like, why do they feel the need to attach their identity so strongly to hip hop when they're guests? And I'd like to share what my thoughts are on that. A lot of Asian folks who come to the U.S., they come to the U.S. hating their culture or hating their own lack of cultural identity. And this is because of the prevalency of white supremacy in a lot of communities that they're gravitated towards when they first moved here. We're made fun of for the foods we eat. We're made fun of for the way we look, the way we dress. A lot of these things are completely looked down upon in society. So for someone like me, when I discovered hip hop and I first stumbled on an opportunity to change my identity, to break out of this, to put bluntly, this nerdy, quiet, awkward Asian kid, I took every opportunity I can to rebrand myself. And I wasn't paying attention to how it could be disrespectful. I wasn't paying attention to how stupid I looked, like wearing baggy clothes and trying to imitate black people, because the reality is that we don't have any reason to be doing that shit. We just don't. We do it because we want to desperately escape from the identities that we were given, or the circumstances or the cards we were given when we first moved out to the U.S. Yeah, I don't know if Izebu has anything from his point of view, what he saw because I know Izebu is from around the same neighborhood that I grew up in. So he saw a lot of these clown ass Asians like acting like they were black, trying to be black, doing black things.
It's I mean, I always when I was growing up, well, first of all, yeah, my name's Alex Izebu. Some call me Easyboo, that's cool. Izebu is fine. Izebu is my real last name. So all Alexes go by their last names. There's so many of us. It's just you can't call someone Alex in a crowd and then have like 25 heads turn. It's fucking ridiculous. Okay.
There needs to be. I want to see all the Alexes team up just once.
Dude,
against the Daniels, bro.
We're working on
Yeah,
it.
it's the A team.
Yeah.
Yeah, Alex versus Daniel.
The
I like it,
A-team. That's I don't know why I didn't think of that. It's been so long.
Beautiful.
But yeah, so I was born in Pennsylvania and in around Westchester. So real nice hospitals and shit, so I can be born real nice and healthy. That's what the parents tell me. And I moved around a couple times. So I've been in New York, I've been in Jersey, or like around Orange area, and then we settled around, when my sister was born, we settled around Edison area, where Cal's talking about. And Edison is primarily Asian. It was white, I think, before the last like decade and a half. So I've been there for about 20 years on and off, and it's primarily Asian. We're talking Indian, we're talking like Chinese, Korean. I don't see a lot of Vietnamese, but I would say, Cal, I don't know if you could chime in here, but mainly
We
like
got some
Chinese
Vietnamese,
guys,
man. We
Korean
got some
guys, some
Vietnamese out
Vietnamese
here.
guys. Yeah. So
Yeah,
a big
man.
Asian community over there. And I went to grade school there, elementary school, middle school, and high school. And it's constantly Asians perpetuating this culture of blackness that they are not a part of. And like Cal rightfully said, I'm not going to speak on the Asian experience because it wasn't my personal experience. I can only speak on what I've seen and what I've interacted with. I don't know why every fucking Asian kid growing up needed to say the N-word to try to relate to me. I don't know why every single Asian kid was trying to like, you know, I understand like hip hop being like one of the greatest, if not the greatest export of America. Like straight up, it's one of the best things that's ever fucking happened and came out of this country. I understand the allure of it. I understand the appeal, but I don't understand why black culture has to be like put on this what's the word, kind of like a pedestal for other people to use for their identity, because it's just not you. I think, you know, being more genuine obviously is always the intention, but like being a black man, like I never really said like the N-word growing up because nobody said it around me. I understand why other black people say it, and I say it sometimes too. I've been around like people who say it. Every once in a while I'll say it, but it's like, if it's not innate to you, don't force it, right? Like Cal said, the do-rags, the fucking cornrows, all this stuff that is just for black people or built by black people, it doesn't belong to you. It doesn't work for you. So why fucking do it at all?
Yeah, like Asian people wearing FUBU.
Yeah, like I never really got that. Like if you like if you do like even basic research, you understand why things are the way they are, what they are. Like FUBU, for us, by us. Why would you? I mean, definitely support the cause, support black-owned businesses, but like don't flaunt it like you are one of us. Like you're not. We are not the same. You know, it's like I grew up doing martial arts. Like I did a whole bunch of taekwondo, and it doesn't make me Asian. It doesn't make me like Korean. I'm taking something from another culture, appreciating it. It's being taught to me, and I respect it. I can't just, you know, tout myself around with like a fucking South Korean flag on my back or something. Like that would be ridiculous.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I'll say like one of the things that I'm noticing now is that, you know, I know a lot of Black people don't give a shit about Asian culture. Actually, a lot of people don't, because, you know, we don't do a good job of marketing ourselves, but, you know, it's growing, right? Like Asian foods is growing in popularity. Asian media, anime, K-pop, K-drama, it's all growing. We suddenly have a platform in the past few years to really make an impact and a splash on Asian Americans. And what's astounding to me is how respectful Black people are of this uptick of Asian culture. And it's not like they learned it. It's not like, you know, anyone sat there and educated anyone on how to treat another culture with respect and integrity. But you bring up a great point about the Taekwondo thing. It's like y'all just innately, the Black folks that I've had the pleasure of having in my circles, y'all just innately respect and join the culture in a healthy way. And I think there's something that I think there's something there. Like I said, like a vast majority of Black folks, you know, this is just my experience. I'm saying a vast majority of Black folks may not give a shit about like the uptick of Asian culture in America, but for the ones that do, I'm seeing a lot of respect. I'm seeing an opportunity there for Blacks and Asians to come together and kind of unite around this popularity swing of Asian culture. But that's a different topic.
Yeah, I just had a thought.
I digress.
Oh yeah. I just had a thought about how, you know, what you were saying with you know, Black people being respectful as guests in Asian culture and not feeling like they need to make it their full identity. I think that, you know, sort of adds to a wider point of how everyone in a white supremacist society feels like they're entitled to Black people, Black creation, Black culture. So, you know, your guests in other cultures, you know, you whether it's a white person's culture in Europe, or it's Asian, or it's Hispanic, Latino, but suddenly, you know, when we get involved in Black culture, we don the identity. You know, when I got started in breaking, also I was similar to Cal. I was looking for an identity change as like a previously like nerdy Asian kid who had like a pink stripe in his hair. I had like emo stuff, you know, and I was looking to like, you know, that was also when like emo stuff was like phasing out, you know, and I was looking like, oh, you know, I can be like this cool thing. You know, I went to an arts high school, so everyone was like that.
Ooh,
And I was like, I can be this different thing that's not really popping here at this school, which was breaking. So like, I mean, I did everything, you know. I bought the Puma suedes, you know, I bought the track pants. I was wearing snapbacks for the first time in my life, you know, flat brim snapbacks, which don't look good on me. You know, I had like Nike shirts and like breaking related shirts. I put breaking stickers on the back of my car, you know.
Christ.
Like, yeah, like, what was the name of that brand that Mex won? Oh, Biggest and Baddest. Yeah, like I bought so much stuff from them, you know, like RIP Mex 1, but like, you know, that was the identity I tried to like latch onto. And so, and then I was like, yeah, I didn't say, you know, I didn't go about it like, oh yeah, I'm taking part in breaking, you know. It was like, oh, break, like I am, like this is my identity now.
Right, I am.
And I think that if I am breaking. And I think that, you know, if you want to have a hobby or a passion or something like that, you should go full send and you should go all in and you should put your 100% into it, but maybe not in that way.
Yeah, there's, I mean, like, sorry, I think one thing that I've managed to avoid was any sort of like cultural costuming in that sense. Like I always dressed like a tight pants fucking weirdo skater guy. Like ask the dudes that I used to break with in Connecticut and Massachusetts, I wore like purple tight pants. At one point I was wearing really tight like khaki colored pants, and I think it was Bombi. He came up to me and he was like, bro, I really couldn't pay attention to your set because I thought you weren't wearing pants.
Word, man.
God damn.
You gotta get those Dickies, man.
Yeah, you got yo, wear your cargo pants, bro. How are you gonna get
Yeah,
good
bro.
without cargo pants?
Just wear basketball shorts, bro. Come
It's
on.
crazy. You're not hip hop enough, man.
That reminds me of a funny story. Do you guys know Jason Orellana?
No.
No, I'm sorry, man. I'm a
Uh,
youngin.
No, he's so he was in like the Philly scene for like a little while, but he came from I forget where he moved from Philly, but he's moved around a lot. He's like really well known, sort of in like the DMV scene, and then also like Midwest, because now I think he lives in like Kansas City or something like that. But and he hosts like a pretty well known Midwestern jam. I think like Memphis Heat. I think that's his. So and he's a part of Flock.
Wait.
What?
Jason, like tall white Jason?
Yeah, tall white Jason.
Oh yeah, I know Jason.
Yeah. Part of Flock. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for a while he was like practicing with us, like me, like Nate, and like the guys that we danced with in like the Philly area. And I did this video project for high school, which was supposed to be like a video tribute to like your death, like if you had died, and it was focused around breaking. So it was like a highlight reel, breaking interviews with like my crew members, and he talked for 10 minutes just about how skinny my jeans were and how I couldn't dance because my legs couldn't bend.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Oh God.
And I wore some skinny jeans during high school. I still wear skinny jeans. Like I'm still guilty of that shit. Like I can't break away from I've got like the ripped knee right now.
Nice.
But
There's that one B-boy Zeku, who's rocking skinny jeans, man.
yes.
It's not his fault. He's actually wearing baggy jeans. All right, he's wearing baggy jeans. His legs are just tiny, spindly little pretzels. That's not his fault. That's genetics.
True. Yeah, but I feel like he could just wear some windbreaker pants and elevate his game a little bit. At least
he got his own thing going. I think he wears like Vans and shit. He's got his own thing going on. He'll come on and just
then there's that Korean guy who don't wear pants at all. What's his name?
Which one?
Pause.
I think that the short strong guy, the Pocket.
Pocket doesn't wear pants.
He has always worn pants.
He's always ripping, bro. He's always taking off his shirt, taking off his pants,
right.
taking off his
Yeah.
shoes.
He does get naked.
By the end of the set,
it's crazy,
he's not wearing
very frequently, actually, at least once per jam, he gets naked.
Yeah.
Zeku is like super
dope.
dope. Yeah. Zeku is like super dope, but like, and like if he ever sees this, I'm totally ruined. But no, he's like super dope. But every time I watch him, like, dude, those pants are so small, and I'm guilty of wearing skinny jeans. But like, I've got like.
Know where he got them because they like he's flexible. His flares are very wide, and those are not ripping. What material are those made out of?
Uniqlo material, bro. It's Uniqlo material.
Gotcha. I'm gonna buy them like a few sizes up so they're baggy, but I need to know. He needs to
He's got
that Uniqlo like material, man.
He's got that licorice leg, whipping.
Yeah, but the crazy part is he's got his whole crew, like his whole Future Force crew, wearing those skinny jeans too, man. They're clearly uncomfortable, but it's a commitment. They're like,
well, you know how some crews wear like jerseys that say like the names. For them, it's the skinny jeans.
You mean Retro Flow, bro? Shout outs to Retro Flow.
What about them?
They wear the jerseys.
They do wear jerseys.
They're dope. It's easy to spot them.
I remember the first time I saw like named jerseys. Who was wearing that? Oh, Del Fuego Wolfpack. From I think they're Boston, right?
Yeah. Well, Massachusetts. I don't think they're.
Oh, that's another guy, dude. Heat Rock, man, but he's dope, bro.
Oh, yeah.
He wears skinny jeans too, man.
Nah, his jeans are pretty. Sometimes they're skinny, but usually they're just straight.
Yeah.
Maybe he's just like a thin guy.
I feel like he does it on purpose.
I know. I don't know how this happened.
Wait, hold on. One more point on this topic before we move is I think that breaking needs to bring back Jinko jeans.
Ooh, skip that. All right, next topic. Let's go. Ooh,
I think.
No.
So yeah, I actually want to hop right into this with Cal, and then we can get everyone else's thoughts also. But Daniel Zhu.
Yeah, man.
So the first thing I want to say about this is like I do respect how much Daniel Zhu has put effort wise into making breaking a platform. We have access to like every single Jams footage. We had to used to fight for. I mean, like first it was DVDs, then on YouTube, you had to hope something went up. It was mostly like IBE and shit that was up there, or like Red Bull. But like we're talking about smaller, a couple 100-person jams that he manages to have a good quality product, and he basically was the power behind Strife TV for so long, and now Stance exists. But then we also have an issue where Stance is like this kind of they have like a monopoly on breaking media outside of like BNC, which is just like Northeast, and then
Right.
like Sam, which is like Europe and Asia. But you think about like US jams, like where's all the footage coming from? So then we have this issue where someone has the full monopoly on like what we see and like how we, I don't know, like, learn, or like it's like a media monopoly. That's the best way I can describe it. So I respect like his efforts and like all the like what he's done to put in, but also at the same time like we now have this prominent figure in our our US scene who might not have the best opinions.
Yeah. So Dan reminds me of the U.S. Congress people who wore the Kenti scarves and was photographed kneeling. That's who he reminds me of. It's the same energy.
Oh my.
Can
we
and I say that because you're right. He has put in the time and the work. Like the people who were in that picture, they've been doing this politics game for a long time. They've been liberal. They have a pretty consistent track record. And yeah. We'll put
Well, I
those
wouldn't say
in
it's a good
quotations,
one, but it's consistent.
yeah,
Well,
it's consistent, right? So, you're right, man. He has consistency, and he's managed to mass himself a 1 million person platform, which is it's accolade of its own. My issue with Danzu doesn't stem from the past 2 or 3 months. It really stems from Stance's handling of Ben Hart back in 2018. I wasn't prevalent in the breaking scene. I think I just started breaking up again after 5 years of hiatus, and so I wasn't vocal about that. But my circle was, and I remember, even before then, breaking culture had this huge elephant in the room starting from 2014 when Michael Brown was killed. You had the good guys at RFTA. Shout outs to RFTA, like Yanni and Brent. They were heavily advocating for Black lives starting from 2014. And they were pushing for anti-Black race. They were pushing against anti-Black racism and racism in general in the breaking community all the way up until 2018, where Stance put up a clip of a racist breaker, Ben Hart. It's about 60 years old. You just look at his profile and he just screams like white supremacist, anti-Blackness, anti-Muslim. And when he was called out on it, Dan Zhu decided to just delete the thread, and he kept the video up for a while. And so we all had a question like, so what is this about? If we're not going to check if we're not going to keep our own platforms in check over what gets put out there, what we represent.
Cal, not
yeah,
to
go ahead.
cut you off, just to add, I believe because of the clip of him at Silverback, he got like an even bigger platform. Like he was on like some morning news.
He was
show,
on NBC.
Like dancing.
He was
and that's not only are his like Facebook posts like were they questionable, the dude has a pretty large written work of like anti-Muslim 9/11 style like rhetoric and propaganda stuff. You can look him up on Amazon. Ben Hart. Let me continue. I'll pull it up. But
yeah, he's a grade A scumbag, man. Just a white supremacist scumbag, dude. I mean, I don't even know how he made it I don't even know how he made it that far in the breaking community.
Oh, I can tell you how. It's really simple, actually. It's not a question.
Because Silverback is a white man as well. Is that what you're about
It's
to say?
part of no, it's part of that, but it's also
Word.
part of the culture of breakers that want to just pull up anybody and everybody who has money. I mean, let's be frank here. Breakers on average do not have money. If this is your livelihood, unless you've branded yourself to the point where you have a consistent income where it comes to like, travel and workshops and all these other facets that come into dance life, this isn't going to be your breadwinner. So there was a bunch of people in the pro breaking tour / silverback camp who were hyping this guy up because 1, he's old, 2, he's white, 3, he's got money. And that's really it. Oh, like how people talk about like, little kids props and shit. It was like old white man with money props. Okay. And like you rightfully said, a lot of guys from RFTA, a lot of guys in our personal circle, everybody who was on the right side of this were saying, yo, this guy should not be the face of breaking at all at any point in time. He shouldn't have any airtime ever. Like, he wasn't going on TV and talking about his books, his shitty books and stuff like that. He was going on TV doing shitty windmills for people, saying he was a b-boy, and then people, alternatively said, okay, well, who is this guy? They look him up, and this is the face that represents breaking right now.
Yeah,
it's
I
unacceptable.
love when he was teaching those white people on NBC how to top rock. It was like the worst thing in the world, man. It's like, dude, it was comical, but at the same time surreal that we got to that point.
Yeah.
But
and breaking, sorry,
yeah,
go ahead. No, you're good.
No,
go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say breaking has like prominent figures too.
Exactly.
Like, like there are people that deserved that spotlight that went to, someone like that. And to add on to an earlier point you were making about Daniel Lejeune, I think, he deleted the thread, then he deleted the video and apologized, right? Then I
don't think he apologized, but yeah.
Well, he made like a, he does like damage control.
Yeah.
He does damage control because I think he's created such a monopoly here behind Stance that he cares about the brand more than he does about the opinions and feelings of the culture and the community that he's taking from and he's benefiting from. And, the same thing just happened with this Facebook interaction that we had with him, that everyone had with him, but primarily you, was that, he's going to, like, you accuse, not accuse, but like we talk about anti-blackness and all that stuff in Asians and how we need to address this as a culture.
Right.
He fights back about that, says like, you're too young to understand, and then he like dips out, blocks you, and then he posts his own thing while having you blocked, doing damage control, and then he does two things. One, he says, like, you think I don't care about Black lives? I've been about this. Posts a single video he made like a year or 2 years ago.
2014. Yeah.
Whatever, about like, we're all united and breaking together. Yeah, that's that's surface level complete BS. Like, you made a video, dude, of like,
you basically was like, all lives matter, man. It was like, all lives matter.
Did.
And then
all lives matter energy.
And then, to act like, no, I've been about Black, culture, and I care about this. He hosts this Black experience thing, with an all Black panel, which I think is great, but the intention there behind that.
Right.
That should have been the first thing you did, not way after in response to, I have, come off as, ignorant to Black issues as a person who was made, whose entire career is built around Black culture.
Yeah, and man. So if we're being real, sorry to cut you off, Cal.
Yeah, no worries. Go ahead.
If we're being real about it, and I've discussed, because I started breaking in 2012, so a little bit after you guys, and I didn't come up watching videos. Okay, like I remember being in like my dorm room because I started freshman year at Temple, never graduated. What's up? So. Basically, I was in Philly when I was learning how to break. And if you've ever been to like any Philly jams or any Philly practices, you understand the culture of like Philly b-boys. It's not necessarily like we're going to sit here, watch videos and learn how to do what other people do. It's more like look, I'm going to show you a move. And if you can figure it out, and then get the fuck down. Like I was battling at practices with like a 6-step and a little bit of shitty top rock. And you just had to do it. Like that was how it went. So my experience wasn't that of the YouTube Bboys, like during my time. So I didn't put Stance. I didn't know these guys like Strife. I didn't know like these channels. I didn't understand them. I didn't put them on a pedestal, and I didn't give them the platform that they have now, which is why it's so easy for me to talk shit about them, because I just don't care about them. But the reality is, Stance got like the entire platform. Stance's primary viewership isn't Black people. It's just not. So why? And it's just like anything in business, right? Why would you care about Black people if you're not profiting off of them, right? So just like how we have a lot of businesses and corporations now supporting the Black Lives Matter movement with like Nike and Sony. Black people put a lot of money into these companies. Let's be real. So why wouldn't they offer their solidarity in the movement? They would lose money over long term if they didn't. So speaking of Stan, speaking of Daniel, it's like, well, what's his? He has no reason to actually give the Black perspective because they're not really his primary market. I would venture to say his primary market is young Asian guys in countries that are making those crazy ass comments under his YouTube fucking channel. But
Yeah,
I don't have the stats, so I'm not going to say that's a fact. I'm just saying primarily I only know Asian kids watching his videos. If I ask anybody about breaking stuff, I'm looking at an Asian guy talking to me because he knows everything from 2013 to 2019 that ever happened.
Yeah.
So,
and I would say that the YouTube generation of breakers is definitely like Asian guys like my age and younger, because like I got a mix of that. Being in Philly definitely has its own. I think every area has its own breaking identity. Philly's is definitely very unique, and I would say it's like a gauntlet. It's like if you were unfamiliar with Philly's breaking community and then you just showed up out of nowhere, you would think, oh, everyone here fucking hates each other. but then also you dap each other up at the end. But it's like Philly's like very aggressive. Everyone who comes from Philly in battles like talks so much shit during battles. Like it's so true. It's true. That's why you're laughing.
Yeah.
But
No,
but then also like I'm from the suburbs. Like I grew up outside of Philly by about 25 minutes. Like the median income in like this area is like $80K a year. You know what I mean? So like this is a rich area. Like I drive my daughter to school, and there's like it's only luxury cars. Like you don't see regular person vehicles. You know what I mean? So I also grew up with YouTube. Like I was watching like early Red Bulls. I was watching IBEs. I was watching. So I did both. And so I can definitely say for a fact, being a part of both of those, like learning classrooms, or is that the majority of the people who make up that YouTube generation are Asians in foreign countries and the U.S., but mostly foreign countries, because that's their exposure to breaking. They don't live in a city like Philly or like New York or like Atlanta or like Chicago that has this giant community of it. It's me being from the suburbs, they live somewhere where it's them and maybe a couple friends, and they discovered breaking on YouTube, and this is their thing now, and it's cool. And now you have like now you have big communities in like large Asian cities, like and like, but at that time, no. So
yeah, man. I mean, listen, when I bumped into Dan Zhu in an Asian echo chamber and Subtle Asian Traits, which is a Facebook community with Asians across the world, I had posted up a status or a post showing Asians how toxic some of the comments that they were making really was, and some of the wording and the narratives they were using to tell a story about Asian struggle versus Black lives. And I really wasn't expecting Daniel Zhu to come out of the woodworks and really come after me like that on a public forum. But the reason why I exposed him, or I hate to use the word cancel, but the reason why I did what I did was because it's okay to not be eloquent. Like Easy Boo said, if your market's just not there, it's okay to be honest about that and just say, I don't really know, or I'm not qualified to speak on these issues, and I don't know how to use my platform to promote these things. But once you start showing your anti-blackness in public forums, you have to understand that the the crux of your business, the crux of your livelihood, it comes from Black culture. And there's a disconnect for him there, because again, I think it goes back to the original point that he feels entitled to what he's earned. I think there's a lot of bootstrappiness, a lot of inherent, oh, I did this by myself, I created this platform by myself in his rhetoric. But you know, the main thing that I got from him, the energy I was getting from him was really like, not just I'm not qualified to speak on Black issues, but rather I want to diminish the Black issues. I want to silence Black issues. I want to make this about hip hop. I want to make this about the all lives unite culture. All this bullshit that white people use to gaslight Black folks into feeling like their issues aren't important. And so that to me was a huge perversion of what he had. And in comparison to my platform of 400 Facebook friends, his platform of 1 million people there's a huge difference. And I think his silence, I'm not saying it's excusable, but I can understand it. But once you start coming out of the woodwork and start saying anti-Black things in public forums, that's where I have to draw the line.
Yeah, and I think that's calculated, because we were talking about his audience being non-Black, anti-Blackness being a huge thing in Asian communities. It's calculated that he wouldn't be, vocally pro BLM, pro, Black issues, because he feels like he might alienate part of that fan base, and he feels entitled to that fan base and to this, this thing that he's built. I don't knock the hustle. I don't knock, that he's put in all this time to create this platform, but it's within this atmosphere of something that he's benefiting from, which is Black culture and hip hop. You have to still, it's like if you create a business from the ground up with a product,
I'm just
right? Yeah. If you create a business
charging
from the ground up,
my
yeah,
energies.
business from the ground up with a product, but there's an existing market for that product. You're not self-made. You're not. So, go ahead.
So I think here's my problem with Stance's structure and Jew and his responsibility. Because he is built off, like, yes, he's created a platform, but he's, a guy with a camera and money. He's not the dancers. He's not the people who put hours and time into building names for his platform to flourish. You know what I mean? Like, there's probably a level of like kayfabe, people like whatever crews winning in whatever areas for jams and such, like not saying like, strings are pulled at that level, like that's weird, but like, you know what I mean, that there's probably some storytelling to what events are like followed, because imagine how much shit's happening in one state at one time, with large cities with breaking scenes. But anyway, that's right. Other he's not the guy who's actually dancing, you know what I mean, who have crews, who have stories, who have things to say, who have built the dance form, you know what I mean, that have knowledge for his platform to provide to people, you know what I mean. And all of that stuff, its roots comes from Black culture, despite who his audience is, that he has a responsibility to, speak on it in a informed manner. Like there are, too many, like at the political level, nefarious entities that are using things like the model minority myth and like the all lives matter sort of rhetoric to attack, protections for other minority communities. You know what I mean? There's literally like a campaign of these like 3 Asian guys. One guy's like Indian and he's a like fake historian, and the other guy's like an old Chinese guy, and they're both trying to remove like affirmative action from college schools, or from like from college application stuff. I don't know. Basically, they're saying, oh, it's unfairly affecting Asian kids because they're not getting into these Ivy League schools, blah blah blah, you know, and they're funded by the same lawyer that funded the girl that there's like some redheaded white chick that was like, I didn't get into my school because some black kid did because of affirmative action, and I'm suing this because it's anti-white racism.
Yeah, and then it turned out she had garbage SAT scores, and that's why.
Yeah,
I remember that.
She didn't have a
that
case
was like 2016
at all.
Yeah.
Yep. And you know, so like playing into those narratives and you know, being that your platform is built on Black culture, you should be trying to dispel and talk about those things, you know.
Oh yeah,
like
we all agree that he has a responsibility.
Yeah, but like I you know, you say don't knock the hustle, I'm knocking the hustle. Like, no, that's a dick move.
Fuck that guy.
Look,
I'm not gonna.
Yeah, man. Yo,
I say that about
first.
everybody. Fuck everybody.
Yeah,
Everybody's a piece of shit.
But he should be the first to be paying reparations, man. That's all I gotta say about that.
I mean,
all right. Yo,
yeah,
let me just say it this way. He's making money. All right. YouTube ain't no joke. Once you hit 1 million subscribers, you get paid. Let's not pretend and knock around the bush here.
But
So
let me also just not slander the guy's fucking name, because I don't personally know him, and I usually like to talk shit about people I know, right? I'm not gonna, you know, completely defame somebody who I have no knowledge of. But let me just input this real quick. Is the All Lives Unite thing? Apparently he didn't come up with that. It was Jade. I don't know Jade. He's a Black guy. I think he's a good dancer. I really don't know the guy, but apparently he's good at what he does, and he's been on the national stage before. So I think he's more all styles, like movement stuff. But I really don't know. That's the thing. I don't fucking know him. But I have seen him do a lot of like anti-racism work. Like I've seen him like online doing, like, before I even started shouting at people, he was doing it way before I was, and very clearly, very eloquently. And I always gave the guy props for that. We weren't friends or anything, nothing like that. I just saw him through other people. So that's how I knew he was popular, right? Shared posts, shit on Instagram, and I don't even have an Instagram. So people are just sending me shit like, oh, this is dope, like check this out. So that's where that was. But apparently he came up with it. And I still didn't fucking agree with it. And I think it tells, like, when somebody feels cornered, like especially a guy like Dan, he feels cornered. He brings up his Black friends and says, hey, hold on a second. I'm not racist. I have 2 Black guys here and they co-signed this. Look, hey buddy, I still don't care. I don't think it's a good take, you know? And that's something I expressed when I was, you know, talking to the guy very, very briefly before Cal really got into him. But yeah, it doesn't make any sense why people can't observe like 3 different Black people in one room and see them to have different opinions on the same subject. And it's kind of very telling about how we view Black people in society, how we all have to be one membrane of understanding. Like they say, like, oh, we're all looters, or we're all shooters, or we're all this, or we're all thugs, or we're all, like, there's always like an understanding of, okay, all Black people are this one thing. When in reality, I can tell you from personal experience, my mom was born in Africa, right? So she's she's African. Like, she came over here, so she's African. I was born here, so I'm first generation African American, right? And then there's people who were born here, their parents were born here, their grandparents were born here. Sometimes like ADOS, American descendants of slavery. So their lineage comes from like slavery being brought over here, you know, way back in the day. So those are 3 completely different types of people. Right? So we're talking 3 completely different types of experiences and 3 completely different perspectives. Like, I've had to unlearn my own prejudices that I was raised on about Black people, my own people. You feel me? So when an Asian guy comes up and says, look, you don't understand, I didn't make this up, another Black guy made this up, so, right, like, give me my props. Dude, no, I have a completely different perspective. And I think for this particular statement, All Lives Unite panders way too heavily into All Lives Matter. Regardless of what time you brought the video out, you should have had at least some kind of semblance of understanding that, look, this panders a little bit. And regardless of if you made it or not, you don't have to be proud of everything you fucking make, okay? You can make a YouTube video in fucking 2006. You don't have to stand by that shit, you know? I'm just saying, it's really tough to be here and be Black and try to express yourself when people are saying, look, your opinion isn't like this Black person's, therefore it doesn't matter. Like, dude, no, they all matter. You should all take them into account and then use your own fucking brain to figure out your opinions on the fact. You don't have to lean, like, I appreciate that people are leaning into what Black people are saying and trying to absorb that information. But don't create an echo chamber for yourself that forces you to say, okay, this is the only perspective that exists, because it's never going to be that case. It's never going to be like that. There's always going to be multiple perspectives, and you need to take them all into account and create your own narratives. Otherwise, you're not learning. You're just regurgitating shit that other people say. And that's, for me, unacceptable. I can't speak on other people's perspectives. I don't know if other people want other, people to regurgitate their ideas. I never want that. I want you to take what I say, with a grain of salt, because I'm not right about anything. I'm here with everybody else just doing their fucking best. You feel me? So
yeah, and
I have Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
It's a quick point about what you were saying about how he was like, a Black dude was the one who came up with this. I think, and then he uses that as here's my justification for this video.
Yeah,
here's
my safety net. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, I think one thing is, a lot of people look at Black people like a monolith of how, like, they have this shared collective thought. They all stand, like, in a certain way, which means when there's outliers, they're used as an example. And that brings me to the larger point of like Candace Owens and like the Hodge twins. And or like, even someone like Tila Tequila, who is of a minority, and they say, oh, well, look, like, this disproves all Black issues because these three people, are saying otherwise.
Right.
Like, people take that clip of Candace Owens saying, oh, I've never experienced discrimination as justification for, well, then this, BLM is bullshit, and then, and people don't, that's all surface level bullshit. They don't want to do the research. They don't want to even look at the news article that shows that Candace Owens won an anti-discrimination lawsuit while she was in college.
Every time I hear that out loud, that actually makes me laugh every single time.
Because it's so ridiculous.
I can't fathom it. I don't understand it.
And people are parroting and sharing that shit, sharing the Hodge twins as like, because they view, they view Black people, and like, not as the only minority there, as this monolith of like, they have a shared collective thought. They all stand together in one thing, so I'm going to use this as my justification.
Dude, I have a strict never argue with a Black person on a public forum about Black issues policy. So
that's a good policy.
That is a fantastic policy.
So I recommend this policy for anyone who's not Black and who sees things like who sees trap comments like, well, what about Black cops who kill Black people? Just walk away. Just walk away. It's like, you're not qualified to speak on those issues. Nobody is asking you to speak on those issues. And, you don't have to pull your Black friends in and pull the whole, I got this Black morality card for my Black friends. Like, nobody wants to hear that. And I think there's something to be had with what Ezebu was saying, that, there are different Black perspectives, and we have to respect each and every one of them because that's part of a story that they want to tell.
So another thing I wanted to touch on also is just reactionary stuff. So all the stuff with Daniel Zhu happened, and then you got messaged through LinkedIn by Danny Wu.
Yeah, man. Well, to be fair, by a lot of Asians, but
Yeah.
But I mean, Danny Wu, like, okay, so I knew this dude was kind of looked at in a certain light by breakers, especially Philly breakers.
Yeah, y'all
because he had this. Yeah,
y'all have that history with him. He had to run to New York City.
Philly. I'm not from Philly.
Oh, sorry. Y'all were in Philly. Yeah. But he had to run away to New York City, from what I understood, where he also caused some problems there. I had some people reach out to me. Saying, he had some very anti-Black things to say in private circles. And I don't have receipts, unfortunately, but Yeah, this guy was what is the pinnacle. I think he represents a large majority of what a lot of Asian breakers think and feel. And yeah, I mean, if anyone wants to input, I mean,
Yeah.
reality is that like this is like the whole Black Lives Matter movement. It sticks hard, and it's a hard pill for Asian breakers to swallow. So I don't know if anyone wants to go into that.
The only thing I'll add is that you know, when you talk about how he had to run away to New York and then he had some issues there, I don't have receipts either, but I do know that from my time hosting jams in Philly, the first jam I hosted in Philly, Break the Limits, I had Kem of Floor Obsessions as a judge, and the reason why I had him was I knew Danny Wu. I don't want to say I was close to Danny Wu, but I was close enough that I could message him about things on Facebook, ask opinions, favors, that kind of thing. And he was friends with the Floor Obsessions guys in New York, which is a primarily Asian crew. I think pretty much everyone in that crew is Asian. So he went to New York where they are, and I know he was practicing with them, battling with them for a little while, but then a short period after he was not. He was very much so out of that circle. So maybe not even full like specifically on anti-blackness, but he had just toxic behavior around people he was with. And he also had an altercation. I think I mentioned this in the Facebook thing. Was with All in One in Philly. We were in a jam in Virginia. Me, Nate. Oh my God, I forget what the name he goes by. He used to be All in One. Chris with a K. Oh, I don't remember his last name. I feel so bad now. And some other kids that we kind of just found randomly. And All in One was practicing in the hallways of this jam. It was hosted by Mario. Crap, not Flock, but that other dude. I'm so disengaged from crew names and b-boy names now. Crap. But anyway, yeah, it was hosted in like Fairfax, Virginia, and he got into an altercation with the All in One guys while they're practicing because it started out as like he was giving them like, I guess you want to call like tips or something, or like critique on their routine, but it's all like, yo, we don't know you. Are you, are you good enough at this or better enough at this than us to be doing this? And it turned into like, oh, he was being patronizing and condescending because he considered himself an authority, to the point where, there was a screaming match going on in the hallways of this jam.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That like
guy
Nate
seems super shitty.
And then Nate like tried to break up because while they were like maybe this close to throwing hands with each other, he was like, haha, I'm gonna hop in the center and like just do like a windmill in between like this group of people that are yelling at each other. That was the wrong move. Nate's like a great dude, but he doesn't always make the best decisions about reading a room, and he's always just trying to play pacifist and funny guy. Nate is like my best friend. We've been friends for at this point like 22 years, so I know that very specifically about him. That is definitely something he would do, and it's not the right thing to do.
You should have just let them beat the shit out of him. I mean, the All-in-One guys are cool. I practiced with them before. They're dope.
I'm surprised nobody's beat the shit out of him already, man.
Yeah, the whole thing started when I posted my video about Asian people, because everybody knows I have a lot of Asian friends. Like, I've been surrounded by Asian communities. Like, it's like like Asian people are my homies. If you like, I think my best friend from like first grade is Asian. Like, this is my life. I have a lot of fucking Asian friends. So I think people misconstrue some of the things I say as like hate versus like towards Asians. And it's not. It's always love and it's always appreciation. But it's just like, yo, y'all need to do better, because I consider a lot of you people my brothers and my sisters against the forces that would have us, that would like to oppress us. Like, it's a really simple like train of thought. But I put up this video. Y'all may have seen it, but I fucking started yelling at fucking Asian people because I was disappointed, and it spawned from one of my boys. And it's not his fault because, you know, we are all misinformed before we get informed, right? We are all ignorant until we read and we do our research. So I got upset, and I decided, instead of making it a super eloquent, a super like calm and constructed argument about what I wanted to say, I wanted to embody a little bit of Black rage, because I've noticed that throughout my life, I've always been, more often than not, considered, you know, your whitest Black friend, or your you know, your most eloquent Black friend, right? The kind of Black friend that you could bring into your house and your parents won't be too worried. Like they're still apprehensive, but they're like, oh, he speaks very clearly and he's so polite, so it'll be fine. You understand what I'm getting at? Like it's very clear that like people try to, like, you know, put me in a little box. Oh, here we go. Look at that. Put me in a little box, and they try to say, you know, that I'm something that I'm not. But I am a Black man, and I am a Black man in this country, and I experience the same kind of hate, the same kind of discrimination that other Black people do. That's why I empathize with all Black people, right? But I made this video because I wanted to make sure people understood that your favorite Black friend, or your funniest Black friend, or your most eloquent and chill Black friend is actually pissed off too, right? I'm actually enraged because there's no reason for example, in that video, I was talking about like rooftop Asians and a lot of like anti-racist sentiment, anti-Black sentiment by Asian people, about like being so forthright about killing Black people if it came to it, just because they were like near your property, or you know, just not supporting the movement in general because I don't know, Black people weren't supporting you. I like it. It was, the train of thought there was like so vague and clearly anti-Black and pro-racism that it just had to be shouted about. And this dude showed up on the thread, and he was, I think, the first person to say that I was wrong and I was like being an ass about it. Everybody else was like, and by the way, it was like almost all Asian guys, or young men and women, like just a combination. It was like, yup, yes, absolutely, speak on it, definitely, gotta share. And then this Danny guy comes in and he's like, by the way, you're whack, this shit is wrong. I didn't even watch the whole thing, and I think you're an asshole. First of all, buddy, watch the whole thing, right? Second of all, he had a bad take. He had a really bad take on it. And before I even got to clown him for it, he blocked me. And then, you know, he got into that shit with Cal that we just discussed. But I wanted to just make it clear that these people aren't like just coming out the woodwork because they feel threatened. They're hiding, right? And then when you call them out in a very general sense, they feel threatened and they jump out at you. And then they look for like anybody to take it out on. And Cal just happened to be, I guess, the guy that seemed the easiest. And he jumped on him and he failed. But that's my point, is that these people are preying on other people after they feel attacked for being racist. And like I said before, I don't know him. Like, I don't know a lot of these people. They just start shouting when people are expressing their ideas about being anti-racist, something that shouldn't be a debate. Like, listen to Black people if Black people are being murdered, right? Like, it's very simple, but yet people want to overcomplicate it with, oh, where were you in this? Where were you in that? Black people could play that same card too, but they don't. They support every minority and every group of people because they have to, because they know we're all part of the same paradigm. We're all trying to fight for the same thing. Whereas I see a lot of Asian communities, they start squabbling against each other. Like, look, well, you know, well, the Blacks aren't friendly. Oh, no, Black people aren't good. You shouldn't, like, do, like, I'm part of like the subtle Asian traits group. And it's really frustrating, because I try not to chime in too much, but it's really concerning and it's really frustrating to see so many people that I consider like a group of people, a generation of people I consider family, my brothers and sisters in the fight against oppression, and they have just the wrong take. It's really concerning, and that's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, I mean, I spend like 2 hours in these echo chambers, like trying my best to start the conversation and stir shit up, but I'll say, like, I trigger Asian people the most.
Yeah.
It's easy for Asians to dismiss Black rage because, you know, it's like that in psychology, man. You start screaming at someone, and they can choose to either listen or they choose to tune out. And Asians generally, and this is a generalization, but they generally try to avoid conflict.
Yeah.
And so when another Asian guy, same demographic, same set of words, same culture comes out and says something completely different than what everyone else is saying, they get defensive. Really the true colors start to come out almost immediately. I think I had that effect on Daniel Zhu. I had that effect on Daniel Wu, because I'm not shit. I literally am not shit. Like I'm not killing people in battles. I'm not like on Facebook, or I'm not even on Instagram or Twitter or anything. I have no presence on social media whatsoever. So when they see this, they're like, this is a great opportunity for me to take out my passive aggressiveness, my microaggression, and make it into actual aggression. And I have this effect because I'm Asian, and when an Asian has an anti-Asian, and I put those in quotations, anti-Asian is complete bullshit. But when I take that stance, when I take that stance, they get their defensive barriers are down. They're no longer scared. They're no longer inhibited, and so the true colors come out. And I love that I have that effect on people. And I want to continue to. Sorry, did I get cut off?
You're good.
No, you were good.
All right, yeah, and I
want
want to continue that dialogue of, and I think it's a really great point of there being a lot of anti-blackness in the Asian communities, and unfortunately inside the breaking community at large.
Yeah.
I think two things I want to touch on. One being, if calls for anti-racism and posts about anti-racism trigger you, then one that's saying something about you. I think you're outing yourself. Two being with that anti-blackness and a lot of black racism in Asian communities. I think when they lash out because they feel threatened, it's because what BLM is doing and what speaking out about black issues is doing is it's throwing fire, it's poking at the status quo. And Asians have spent a lot of time, what's the word?
They protect and play into it, man. They love it.
Yeah, we are the model
it.
minority, and that's because of racism, but we are protected.
We benefit from it. We benefit from it.
We're benefited and we're protected by it. So we feel our status as the model minority, the most successful
I'd like to apologize
race
for
group.
white people setting that trap. That's diabolical.
That's a crazy
we feel
book to
ourselves we feel our status getting attacked in the same way because we're protected by white supremacy. And and I think a lot of Asian people don't understand what their role is in the US and why a lot of Asians are here in the US. You do have people who came later on. I have a really close Vietnamese friend whose father moved in the 70s. It's a little bit different, but starting with I've had to talk to other Asian people about how your role here and your existence here in the US is due to white supremacy and racism, whether it was because your family was chosen for its education level, or because you were brought over to basically be a wage slave for the railroad companies. So
if you don't mind, I'd like to just give a brief overview of trying to understand where this anti-blackness really comes from, and in the Asian perspective. And of course, a lot of what I'm going to say now is complete bullshit, but bear with me. There's two camps there's more like three camps of Asians. The second and the third camp kind of are married together now, but the first camp of Asian is the minority privileged Asian who unfortunately had their reality shattered during the COVID-19 pandemic. A lot of anti-Asian racism came into the news, into large media platforms, and a lot of Asian folks are still hurt over how Asians were treated during that pandemic. The timing is incredible, but they're taking their inherent sadness and rage out on the wrong community. And they're doing that because media chose to portray Black on Asian violence during that pandemic. And instead of getting away from that narrative, they latched onto it. It resonated with them. That anti-Blackness that they felt during the pandemic, it really came to surface when the Black Lives Matter movement became a social media phenomenon in recent times. And these model minority Asians, they're still wrestling. Many of them are still wrestling with the fact that they have their own struggles, that somehow that the past 3 months of increased racism is suddenly means that we're no longer privileged, and that we no longer have the social protection that we benefited from for the past 200 years. And so, it's that they think, we're not model minorities. We're struggling too. And then, in the same camp, you have folks, like you said, who come from war-torn countries and live in poverty. There's Asians who are severely underprivileged in comparison to the crazy rich Asians that you guys are more privy to in the media, and they feel that their experience is not completely out there. They disregard their blatant privileges in exchange for some of the more immediate effects of racism that they feel and have amplified during the pandemic. The second camp is the bootstrappy Asians. These are the most vocal and provocative group on Facebook y'all, or I should say in public forums, y'all will encounter. And it's because bootstrappy Asians, like you had mentioned earlier, are the Asians who benefit from the capitalist white supremacy system that we have currently. They put a lot of emphasis on education, on job, and they equate having a good job and having a good education to higher morality. And so it makes it very easy for them to say, okay, well, if I could do it, and as an Asian in this country, then why can't Blacks do it? And of course, that's complete bullshit. You were only allowed to do so because the system allowed you to get through, and allow you to get an education, allow you to have a mortgage, and things of that nature. They don't really want to take the time to understand that they have these advantages in comparison to other POC. But the bootstrappy Asian goes further, because within the confines of this worshiping of status, of college education, of wealth building and things of that nature, comes the sense that they are entitled to the property. They have a right to defend the properties that they've created and that they've owned. I'll equate this to Daniel Zhu's platform of stance, right? Like, he basically was armed and ready to shoot down anyone who came in and try to break down those barriers and say, well, this isn't yours. This is Black culture. And it's the same thing. And when we talk about rooftop Asians, that's the symbolization they're really going for. They want to show that Asian Americans have the strength and the power to protect their wealth and their property. And these folks, like the rooftop folks and the bootstrappy folks, they really have it ass backwards, because they're going off strictly on their personal experience and not the collective experience of our community. And that's kind of where that comes from, is that capitalism, self-centered, I'm doing this by myself, I did this is mine, doesn't belong to anyone else, I'm entitled. These are all of those things that these false foundations are built upon. These are the two camps of Asians that you'll see the most speaking out and being anti-Black in public forums.
Yeah, and I'm gonna make a confession here. Is that I fell into the trap of feeling like in high school I'm a minority, so I'm entitled to the minority struggle. For a short period of time, after sort of integrating myself into Black culture, but not recognizing I was a part of Black culture, I referred, to my friends as the N-word, right, with an A at the end. I thought, oh, I'm a minority, I can say this.
Oh, much
I'm a
better.
person of color. Oh, yeah. Dude, Nate is Black, and he even was like, hey, dude, what's the reason for this? You know, and I'm like, I'm a person of color. It's cool. I even justified it to a black guy.
It's like,
You know, and
it's like I'm not white, so it should be fine, right? And then we're like, well, not really. And then you're like, okay, well, I'll say it sometimes though because we're friends. And then we're like, no, still don't. That's not cool. And then you're like, well, I'm gonna do it anyway.
yeah, dude,
And
I'm so
that's the
guilty.
problem.
Yeah,
And
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 I'm
it's
a
good that you can admit that because a lot of people won't admit that to themselves. They won't admit that.
yeah,
It's like you fall into this circle of, okay, well, even though you're black, your opinion on what I say doesn't really matter. And quite frankly, in the grand scheme of the world, it doesn't. Anything we say to you doesn't really matter. But if you have any sense of morality, any kind of moral compass at all, you understand that, look, this thing doesn't belong to me. Just like how I mentioned way earlier, how Taekwondo, right? It doesn't belong to me. No matter how good at it I get at any level, it's not mine. I didn't create it. It wasn't created for me, by me. So it's not, I can't claim it, right? So it's the same thing. And admitting it is the best thing you can do. And then, well, it's the first thing you can do. And then changing is the best thing you can do. I know a couple guys, Asian guys who I grew up with, it's a couple that I've met, you know, further down in the line, and they were saying the N-word. And when I brought it up like one time, they stopped saying it altogether. It wasn't even a conversation. It was just like, you know what? Yeah, you're a black guy. You're saying I can't say it. I'm not going to say it. It wasn't a fight. It had nothing, like it was just flat out. Whereas there's other guys or, you know, other people of other minorities who have said, hey, that's not cool. Don't say that. I've even given them history on the word. It's not all right. And it's always back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then eventually, okay, maybe they'll say it less, but they'll still say it. You know, it's unacceptable, but it's the reality we have to live in. Black voices aren't heard. That's it.
yeah. No, and I definitely, you know, it was part of my sort of identity change, where I, you know, became you know, wore the clothes we were talking about earlier, wore the clothes, took on, you know, aspects of black culture. And I think that was part of it. It was me wanting to, you know, make this personal identity change and really be like this, I guess, like persons whose sole identity was hip hop, which is inherently black. And I was doing that too. And I did a lot of, you know, it took a lot of time and sort of personal reflection and research and stuff in college to recognize that you know, I'm not as open-minded as I think I am. You know, I'm not as progressive as I think I am. And I am also, you know, very subtly racist. If college sophomore year, I made a Facebook post and ended up getting in an argument with two Facebook friends of mine about the definition of racism. You know, you know, I posted the Merriam-Webster's definition of racism in that thread, and I was like, "Yo, all races can be racist to each other." And then, you know, they respond. You know, my I don't know if you guys know Deandra Patrice on Facebook, pretty active in Philly BLM. She, you know, was like, yeah, a definition written by a white guy made no sense to me at that time. You know what I mean? I was like, it's a word and it has a definition. You know what I mean? But I thought I was open-minded. I was like, oh yeah, no, I'm totally cool with like LGBT people. You know, I definitely think that gays should get married. I definitely think this. I definitely think that. But you know, when you start to encounter those, I guess you would call it like larger complex sub issues, you know, it really causes you to really have to sort of double think. Like a year later than that, I was not super open to. I don't want to call it not super open, but I was super ignorant about trans people. You know, I thought the notion of referring to people who identify as the gender that they were assigned at birth, cis, was super dumb. I was like, we're the majority. Why do we have a name? You know, I was like, yeah, if you want to be trans and you want to identify as something else, that's cool. But all this don't involve me in that. That was an ignorant mindset. That was an ignorant take. And you know, either you get educated by someone else or you do it on your own. But you know, if someone is a part of that, it took someone who was trans to sort of sit down with me and talk to me. Not actually sit down; it was over Facebook.
Right.
But if someone is of that community and they're speaking on it, then you shut up and listen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that brings us to, what do we do going forward? I mean, there's unfortunately a narrative of that. There's so many narratives that support the idea that anti blackness and pro-Asian pro-Asian and pro-black is mutually exclusive. You can't have both. I've been called anti-Asian. I've been called pro-black. And, the thing is, like, I'm Asian. There's obviously no like physical or mental way for me to be anti-Asian, but this is how Asians feel. And I've had this feedback from multiple circles that I'm in. And so what do we do going forward? And so I think you just brought up a great point when you said that you had a trans friend really reach out to you and have a dialogue with you. I think the first thing that we Asians have to acknowledge is that our anti-blackness comes from white colonialism. It's like we just need to take a step back and reassess the history as to where our anti-blackness comes from. It didn't come from Asia. There were no black people in Asia. So how could you be anti-black? There's just no understanding of where that comes from. And to be frank, it's from when we were oppressed by white people. We were so oppressed and we were so desperate to stop being oppressed that we turned our backs on everyone else. And when we acknowledge that, and when we turn our faces to the real enemy, which is white colonialism and white capitalism, we can sit here and we can say, shit, we're fighting on the wrong side. We're on the wrong side. It's like Uncle Ho Chi Minh, man. Like, the dude knew when he was fighting against all these white people that that's what was going on. And that's the first step. And the second step would be, we need to have more black folks come into these Asian echo chambers. And I say that with an asterisk because black folks don't owe Asians anything. They don't owe it to us to educate us. It just takes a simple Google search to learn this shit. But sometimes, until you have a black person sitting across from you at a table and really tell you what's going on, that seems to be one of the most effective ways to get that message across. That's why, even though it's very difficult for all the Asians out there listening, even though it's very difficult, I challenge almost every single Asian who realizes that the importance of BLM, and I challenge them to check the racism inside their own homes. If a black man can't come into your house and get a cup of water without feeling threatened, then you're not really a pro-black ally. You're just putting up these accolades, and you're really just going for internet clout, because you can't be pro-black until a black man can sit there, a black woman can sit there in front of you and say, "Can I come in for a glass of water? Can we have a conversation?" And if they can safely, then you know that you're making the right steps. But unfortunately, we're still stuck on this whole, well, my parents are, they're a little racist, and they still think of racism as a political opinion, or a matter of it being politics. It's not about politics. It's about humans and human people, and we really just need to expose more Asian echo chambers to black culture, black people, and that's where I see it. That's where I see it starting. Yeah. But it's gonna be difficult, man. Like I said, some of the black people I've spoken to, they don't have the patience for this shit anymore. Like, we fucked it up big time, and so it's gonna start with more Asians speaking out against their own kind. That's how it's gonna start. And then once we create a safer space where more people are receptive, that's when blacks can really come back and push that final nail into the coffin. But I said my piece.
Yeah, I mean, I always say, I think I always say, it's not, your responsibility to engage in discourse with every single person you come across, especially for the oppressed, for black people. And I think a lot of the willful ignorance in Asian communities comes from the fact that, as the model minority, we are the, most successful, most educated. So why would we be told by someone who's not? Like, why would we be educated? Why would we, like, I'm just saying, like, this is the mindset that, you know, obviously, well, our opinions are, you know, born out of the fact that we are, like, our viewpoints and our stances are born out of the fact that we are the most educated. So why would we have to learn from the minority that isn't? And I think that's what a lot of Asian people, why they stay ignorant to Black issues, is because they feel like, well, you can't tell me anything because I'm the educated one and you're not. And to speak at another point you had is about oppressed groups that lash out at other oppressed groups, because that's a byproduct of white supremacy, is that we're all pitted against each other. You know, this is not an issue that I want to make larger, but, you know, there's a lot of like anti-LGBTQ stuff in the Black community.
Yeah.
You know, it's one oppressed group lashing out at another oppressed group instead of realizing what the root.
I'd say it's I mean, the anti-LGBT like fucking sentiments are one unifying oppressive structures. You know what I mean? Like, you know, your level one, you know, connecting factor for people who want to, you know, speak in bad faith about progress is going to be your anti-Black camp, and then your next camp is going to be the anti-LGBT camp. And unfortunately, there are people who are, you know, trying to fight the anti-Black camp, but they're also, you know, moonlighting at the anti-LGBT camp, you know, being dickholes.
Yo, but that's the thing, man. That's the thing. White America loves the LGBT community more than they love Black people.
I mean, the white America loves dogs more than they love the
Yeah. They'll take anything. They'll take anything before they say,
anything.
Yeah, Black lives matter. They'll take.
Yeah. I mean, even at this point, I tried to engage with one of my cousins in a conversation. I've multiple family members I've engaged with about like race issues, and it's just ended with them blocking me or them deleting the threads, and I was just like, oh, this is.
You've tried to get engaged to multiple family members. That's a white person thing, man.
Yes, it is. No. But like when I talk to my cousins about that, well, a few cousins about those things, it's usually met with quite a bit of like venom and like, you know, oh man, we're family. How are you gonna say that I might be a racist? It's like, well, you know, blood doesn't change the fact that you keep sharing the Hodge twins. I don't know what the fuck's happening. But like,
it's tough, man. It's tough.
No.
I think
for Asians, it's tough, man. A lot of them value family.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, but that's the only path I see right now.
Yeah, and Asians also value face. They really value, you know, how you're perceived by society, your reputation, but of other Asians. You know, so when you take those opinions and you start to break from the consensus standpoint of Asian communities with being pro-Black, pro-BLM, you know, Asians don't want to do that because that's breaking from their status quo, and that might be, you know, in the most stereotypical way, that might be dishonor on, you know, what your family has achieved.
It's kind of funny how similar a lot of cultures are, because I hear a lot of like, I hear a lot of talk about like Asian cultures, and I've come to understand it in a very general sense, not a personal stance, obviously, because not Asian. But like I said, my parents are African. So my parents come from Africa. They came over here, had me over here. So I'm first generation, which means I experience a lot of the same, you know, intricacies that Asian families go through. A lot of the honor stuff, a lot of the familial connections, a lot of the education stances. It's all very, very similar. And I think it's just a third world country thing. But at the end of the day, like Cal said earlier, a lot of we're all fighting this common enemy, and that enemy is forcing us to look at each other and say, no, that person's the enemy or this person's the enemy. My enemy isn't the LGBT plus community. My enemy isn't, you know, Asian Americans. My enemy is strictly white colonialism and what it's done to this country and countries around the globe. In Nigeria, for example, we had white people come in there and ravage the fucking country. Like that's the main thing that happened over there in a lot of African countries. And now we have Asian people in there, and they're trying to make the best use of the land that they can. And I'm not sitting here and saying Asian people are the enemy. That's not the problem. The problem is we keep letting other people take control of what is ours. And that started with white colonialism. So it all roots, if you do basic research, like just your basic history, you'll understand that all of us are fighting the same shit. Like I think Cal he got his degree in, what did you get your degree in? Was it history?
I'm a history and philosophy degree.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know nearly as much about history and philosophy as Cal does, but we're on the same side of things because I have a basic understanding of what has happened over time. You feel me? So, and it's that simple. It's like, for example, a lot of people right now are jumping through the hoops, trying to justify not supporting the Black Lives Matter movement, right? It's like, okay, where's the money going to? Who's really in control of all this stuff? You ask me, I don't think an excessive amount of money going to anyone's pockets is a good idea, no matter how rightful the cause, right? But that doesn't excuse you from supporting Black lives. It doesn't excuse you from understanding the mantra and helping Black businesses thrive. If you think, for example, Black Lives Matter is corrupt and all the money is going to, what are the people saying now? Like George Soros or something? Like
Yeah,
they're doing
People
all
are
these
saying
like,
George Soros is funding Black Lives Matter,
right?
And they're also saying that the Democratic Party is like somehow connected to one.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I've been hearing
mess,
lately.
man.
So
It's a mess.
if you genuinely believe that, you should still support Black lives. Like you can still send money to Black businesses to support Black people who are being imprisoned, who are you can still support people who are being, jailed for protesting. That's not the issue here. The issue is you're lazy. The issue is you don't want to do the legwork to help other people. And that's really it. So I would advise, just as Cal said, get out of your echo chambers and talk to Black people and figure out your stance, and don't just sit there and absorb other people's information. Actually, I would say really like contextualize what you feel, because you'll realize, and I'd like to think that most people will come to the conclusion that yes, Black people need help, and by helping Black people, you're helping yourself. Mm-hmm. By helping like the oppressed, you are going to benefit in the long run, because Asian people wouldn't have been able to come here without the civil rights movement. You feel me? Mm-hmm. I mean, the civil rights movement couldn't have happened without the American Revolution, which was just a giant fucking protest. You see what I'm saying? So it's like you follow the string of protesting and rioting and what really gets shit done. And you got to understand that things are only going to get better if you support the people who are doing the fighting, because more often than not, they're right. Just listen to them. They know what they're talking about. Nobody's out in these streets doing this shit because they want to. If we're talking about looters, if we're talking about people who are taking things from, businesses and stuff like that, what reason would you have to do that other than poverty, other than a class issue, which is also created by white colonialism? These things are created, and I'm not saying class as a whole was created by white people, because other people of different ethnicities in different countries have different caste systems where they employ different, poverty limits and shit like that I'm not privy to. I don't have all the knowledge on that, but I know, China's done stuff like that. India has done stuff like that. But so I'm not saying white people did everything. I'm just saying white people did the shit that matters to me, and we need to fix it. That's it.
I'd like to add one sort of close to the end point, because we're coming up near the end here, is what kind of role white colonialism has on cultures. I was born in Hong Kong, and Hong Kong I was born in Hong Kong while it was British territory. The handover happened in '97, and that's when my parents moved back here. My parents are white. I'm adopted. So my role in Asian culture is also, very different. But in Hong Kong is a self-governing city with its own currency system, and became a economic, I don't want to call it a superpower, but very economically affluent while it was run by British rule.
Yeah.
Which now leads to the mindset of people in Hong Kong that they're better than the rest of China. You know, the handover happened back to China after British rule, and Hong Kong wanted none of that. They're like, oh, we can govern ourselves. We have our own currency system. You know, our standard of living and our wealth is so much higher. We're not Chinese. Well, like, we're not a part of China. So now there's a lot of anti-mainland China rhetoric in Hong Kong, and it's just a byproduct of what white colonialism does to a culture. That's
Word,
yeah.
man. I mean, I'm Korean, and you know, we still have a North and South Korea.
Yep.
That's it, man.
Yeah,
there's
that's the
there's
whole
like
thing.
there's like white people drew a line in the ground, and they were like, "You're North, I'm South," and now we have a huge fucking international problem between North and South Korea. And you know, people in the U.S. love to make fun of North Korea, bro. They love that shit. They're like, yeah, look at these savages out here, like killing people and being dictators. They make satire movies, and you know, but like that's just a sad reality that a white man drew literally a line across the ground and was like, all right, you stay over here and I'll stay over here. So
I also love how
Vietnam.
Yeah,
they did that shit everywhere, man.
I also love how
Yeah.
white people decided that North and South Korea, North and South Vietnam were fighting their war too.
Oh yeah. Well, Russia. It was Russia and the United States mainly.
Yeah, but it was like, oh, this is now a
It's like-
conflict, and everyone
Oh,
who
yeah,
lives there is
yeah.
like, it is. I guess it's a conflict now. You know?
What? Nobody told me.
Yeah. They would have been fine otherwise. You could say that about so many places. Like, we would have been
Right.
fine otherwise if it just wasn't for white people.
Yeah, bro. I feel
Fair.
that. I
I'm
feel that.
sorry.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
Yeah.
Can't do anything but fix it going forward.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, your apology as a
Right.
white guy, it's cute, but like I already know that that's not even close to a fix. The fix is what you already know what you're doing. You know, protesting, talking about issues, giving Black people and other minorities a platform to speak on these things, and that's what I want other people to take from that. It's like it's really like the word is cute. It's cute when white people are just like, hey, you know, what can I do? How can I help? But like, buddy, I can't help you with that. I'm actually trying to live. Like, I'm trying to stay alive. I've been in the suburbs most of my life, and I've had so many interactions with cops. Too many, like for no reason. I don't own a gun. I haven't been a part of any violent crime in my entire life. So it's like, how could I have so many negative interactions with cops? I've had some good interactions with cops. I've had good interactions with cops during negative interactions with cops. But at the end of the day, the only reason they're here, you know, in my face, at my house, you know, is because I'm Black. That's it. The only reason why they pulled me out of that crowd is because I'm Black. And I mean,
I'll share a funny story. Yeah.
You know,
I'll share a funny story about Zebu before I head out. I gotta head out right after this comment here. But yo, we were in New Brunswick, which is another suburb town. We were sitting at a late night fast food joint, and you know, these four white cops are just like, they pinned this Black dude up against the restaurant. Like it's an all glass restaurant. We see this dude's face pressed up against the restaurant. It's a Black dude. He's clearly homeless, which means, you know, he's probably not a threat. And you know, one of the cops walk in, and Izebu's like, yo, what's the fucking point of this? Like, why do you need so many dudes? Y'all are pussies. And the dude turns around, and he's like, I'm gonna fucking arrest you if you say one more thing. And I was like, holy shit, man, like that's fucking wild to me. Like,
yeah,
what?
Wow.
It was like, he was like,
that was some fascist shit right by the textbook.
Yeah, I was talking to, and I didn't even know, obviously I didn't know the guy out there, but I wanted to like look at the guy, make sure he knew that other people were looking and watching, so he could at least have that kind of semblance of safety. Like, look, I probably won't die out here if there's so many people watching, because I realized that there were a bunch of people, like, you know, a mix of people, white people, Asian people, and I think one other group of Black people ignoring what was happening outside, which becomes the culture in America to say, okay, well, it's not happening to me, and because it's not happening to me, I'm safe right now, and that's all that matters. Nah, that's not how that works. We got to keep people we got to actually entertain what's going on. Otherwise, it's like, nobody's going to say shit, right? We got to engage that shit. So I engaged it. I looked. I didn't say shit to the cops because, fuck that. I looked, paid attention, tried to absorb what the fuck was going on in case anybody needed something from me, and I took a step back. Dude, one of the cops said, get back inside. I went inside, didn't talk to the guy. I told Cal and one of my boys, I was like, yo, what they're doing out there is so unnecessary. The guy is clearly unarmed. Doesn't matter what he was doing. There's no reason to have 5 motherfuckers on top of him. If you're a professional, you can pin down somebody with 2 people, make your arrest, detain, whatever, do whatever you got to do. Nobody cares about your job. Just get it done right and do it safely without assaulting black people. One of the other cops comes in, like Cal said, and he picks me out of a crowd while I'm talking about what's happening to friends of mine, like with my back turned. And he's like, yo, you got a problem? You got a problem? You can come talk to me outside. And I'm literally, what? Are you talking? Bro, I'm not talking to you. Like, what is wrong with you? It was the most like absurd shit that could ever happen to somebody. But this happens to black people consistently. And if I was to go outside, if I was to try to have a conversation with this guy, I get my ass
been arrested. Yeah, he would have been
arrested
arrested
instantly, and it's not even a question for them. So yeah, that's the reality that black people, even your your whitest black friend or your safest black friend, like even your I even deal with that shit, because this exactly. I'm still black in this country, all over the world. No matter where I go, I'm still black, and all they see is black. So that's why I represent. I try to represent the best that I can the experience that I go through, because I know a lot of people go through it, but they don't talk about it.
And I was scared for his life, man. I was scared for Easy Boo's life, man. The guy was like, he put his hand on his fucking pistol. He was like talking to me outside, he was like, on some straight Nazi joint, bro. And this is in a suburban town, man.
Yeah, this is on Rutgers campus.
So you know what? That's our reality. This is the kind of shit we're going up against. I said my piece. I love y'all.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on, man. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for talking about it. Like,
yep. Oh, do you mind if I make a plug real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
So I started a Facebook group with Easy Boo as a moderator. It's just us 2 for now, but it's called Subtle Asian Racism. It's a Facebook group. It's public. Anyone can join. We talk about race issues between Asians and blacks. We're gonna expand that. We're gonna really start targeting white colonialism when some of the progress is made. If y'all wanna continue the discussion with me and Easy Boo, that's the group to find us at. Subtle Asian Racism. Peace, much love. Thank you y'all for having a platform.
Yep.
And I'll catch you guys soon.
All right, bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Yeah. So I guess just to wrap this thing up, 2 things. Cal's gone, but a message to my Asian folks. I don't have the authority to speak to Hispanic, Latino, but just because you're a minority, doesn't mean that you face the same kind of racism that black people do. And I think that as an Asian man who has had multiple encounters with the police, not once of them have I ever feared for my life.
Right.
And I think that you need to, if you've ever feared for your life for any other reason, imagine, black men and women in America, feel that every time they're faced by authority. And that's step one, is realizing your role as a minority in this, that isn't the overtly oppressed one. And then the other point I just wanted to make is when we were talking about other countries and the role white colonialism has in them, and there being still in North and South Korea, is the United States has done a really good job in convincing its people that authoritarianism only happens in other places.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Apparently North Korea and Cuba and Russia are all these terrible authoritarianist regimes to live under. And no one has any rights, and everyone fears for their life. But in the U.S., apparently you're free, and none of that happens here.
Right.
Apparently,
I think that narrative is.
Apparently.
I mean, it's just such bullshit. I think, and I think we have to, as as like the human race, as like a species, we have to want better for ourselves. Like, even though
Yes.
America thrives in a lot of different areas, that's why a lot of our parents, you know, my parents specifically, came here, because there's opportunities here. And I'm not undermining that. I think you can do almost anything here and make money doing it. You know, like, I've been
Right.
to Nigeria. I like it. You can't do nearly as much. There aren't nearly as many resources, not by a long shot. There's villages that don't even have electricity. Like, you can't just start a podcast in Nigeria. You feel me?
Right.
You won't
right,
have
right.
power. So that's what I'm getting. It's like over here, yeah, things are okay. Things are good sometimes, but they can be better.
Yeah.
They don't have to stay the way that
Absolutely.
they are. They can be better, and we can work together to make this actually a better place if we all can start getting on the right side of things. And that side is just fighting the oppressive regimes that exist here. And they might not always be as obvious, but it becomes a lot more evident when we listen to people who are experiencing what we're, you know, discussing. Like, I would love to sit down and talk to more, you know, Hispanic Americans, Latin Americans, about their culture and how it intertwines with Black culture, and how we're not really that different, even though there are different,
Yeah.
like, you know, different paradigms and different situations. It's like these experiences are very similar. Just like I can relate to the Asian experience in some ways, I'm sure I could relate to the Hispanic, Latin American experience in a lot of ways. So we need to have more discussions with each other. More minorities need to come together. And minorities doesn't just include racial or ethnic minorities. It includes, you know, the LGBT community, anybody who is a minority should be speaking about their issues. And we should be kind of just integrating them into what we know about society, so we can fix what's happening. Otherwise, nothing's ever going to
Right.
get fixed. The
Yeah.
powers at hand are always
Exactly.
going to be in
Exactly.
control.
And Hispanics and Latinos speak Spanish for a reason. So, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So, yeah, this was awesome. I'm gonna wrap it up just because I think it's been like an hour and 45 at this point.
Oh, at least.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, we you guys got into it. I just kind of like, I just shut up and listened for 2 hours.
Yo,
That's your role as a white man. No, I'm kidding.
Like, hey, listen, if that's, I didn't want to like, I wanted to add pieces, but at the same time, you guys were really, really flowing. And at that point, you know, I just, I'm here to set
Well,
up
that
and
was the
listen.
theme of this pod. We'll talk about you know, other things next time. But it was a pleasure having you.
Appreciate you guys,
Alex, and other Alex. Fun. He's gone now, but
he's gone. But yeah,
gone but not forgotten. Don't Panic Podcast. Patreon.com/Don't Panic Podcast. I will be editing and uploading this episode soon to all of our stuff.
Yes.
I'll tag you guys on Facebook, and hopefully we can gain some traction.
Great.
Cool.
I'll throw it at everybody. I'll yell at everybody. You guys are doing some good work, and hopefully it'll continue, and we'll have a lot more discussions.
Yeah, we want to have other people on.
I'm always willing to come back on. You know, I love talking shit, so let me know.
All right, man.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, this was great. You guys have a good one.
You too.
Thanks. Have
Peace
a
out.
good day.